How would you react if you heard that a new continent was discovered? I must warn you that this is not a promised land and you would definitely not volunteer to live there. What if I told you that you have a chance to get a glimpse of it in Istanbul, Turkey? Checking for the flight tickets yet? You won't like what you see there and perhaps even get goosebumps. This is Özge Çakır. Welcome to my weekly podcast. On this third episode, we will go on a journey to the seventh continent.
Premiumbeat.com
56 artists from 25 countries present more than 220 pieces, and they are all waiting to be seen in Istanbul, Turkey. The 16th Istanbul Biennial is taking place between 14th of September and 10th of November in several locations in the city, such as the new building of Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University, Istanbul Museum of Painting and Sculpture in Tophane, the Pera Museum, and Büyükada, which is one of the Princess Islands in Istanbul. In fact, it's the biggest one, and it's definitely a beautiful location to be if you are visiting Istanbul. Nicolas Beaulieu, a curator and art critic who has curated a great number of exhibitions and biennials all over the world, is the curator of the 16th Istanbul Biennial. Beaulieu describes artists as the translators between the non-living and the living. He says, quote, "We are moving towards an amplified humanism, one in which the human being is no longer central and in which the artist acts as a translator between worlds." While answering questions from a Turkish journalist about the biennial, Beaulieu mentions of mind pollution, referring to the immense number of pictures, images, photographs on our smartphones that we keep looking at even when we don't need to. We are surrounded with too many images every day, maybe even every minute. Therefore, he underlines, the artists have tried to work with the already existing images for the biennial, and they conducted images from those already existing materials instead of producing new ones from scratch. And there is a really good reason for this. This year, Istanbul Biennial invites the visitors to discover the seventh continent. Let me tell you one thing before we go any further into details. This is not a pleasant discovery. The seventh continent is not a beautiful, promised land. Throughout history, humans have invaded lands, discovered new places, established states, or simply made themselves feel home or somehow left their mark. But congratulations, humanity, this time there is no need for searching or no need for discovering, because this new continent is a creation of ours. The curator of Istanbul Biennial, Beaulieu, defines the seventh continent as a country consists of things that we declined, threw away, and we do not and we will not want to live in. There are 5 oceanic accumulation areas for plastics in the North Pacific, South Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, respectively. A plastic continent? Well, these are not lands that we could walk on. And the name of the seventh continent comes from the fact that these areas of plastic pollution accumulation are as vast as continents. The biggest of the 3 plastic garbage islands is in the North Pacific Ocean. It is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or GPGP. It was first noticed in the 1980s, but back then it wasn't really considered to be an urgent issue. However, plastic materials were designed to be durable. Plastic can remain in the nature from a few years to even several centuries. What scientists did not consider back in the 1980s, I think, was the fact that with the growing world population and the industrial bounce, plastic have become the material that is used in countless fields for numerous purposes. Plastic materials have basically become major parts of our lives, from industrial production fields to our homes, our nylon shopping bags, coffee cups, or cutlery. The current size of this Great Pacific Garbage Patch is 600,000 square miles. This is 6 times bigger than it was when it was first discovered. It is larger than Alaska. It is twice as big as Texas. In fact, it is bigger than significantly large countries such as Iran or Mongolia. It is 3 times bigger than France. Environmentalists estimate that more than 8 million tons of plastic get into the oceans every year, and this is only the 3% of the world's pollution. Plastic becomes vulnerable in time under the sunlight and in the water. Plastic resists and continues to exist, but small particles of it emerge. Broken down into small pieces and microparticles, the waste forms a plastic soup that is invisible to the naked eye in some parts of these plastic garbage islands. Sea inhabitants and birds flying over the water, however, think of these particles as something that can be eaten. The International Coastal Cleanup works in this field for about 30 years, and they estimated that 800 species have been either killed or hurt by marine waste, simply because they think of them as something that can be eatable. And when fish feed on these plastic pieces, because they simply think of these as something eatable, and it influences not only them, but also the whole food chain. Smaller creatures also try to eat smaller pieces of this plastic soup, and they have terrible digestive problems, which can and actually do cause their death in most cases. People keep fishing in polluted waters. What if you cook one day a fish that has some plastic inside its stomach for dinner? Not so pleasant to imagine, and not a really desirable meal, is it? Sea animals such as sea turtles get trapped in fishing nets, nylon bags, or other plastic materials that people threw away without thinking a second about it. And the nylon bags, for instance, that some of us throw away into the water without thinking, seem like a jellyfish to a sea turtle. Voila, the poor thing thinks, here is some meal for today, I can enjoy. But this plastic garbage is nothing close to meal. It's a trap. It's a trap that kills the poor animal and many others. They die either because of some digestive issues that they have and of course cannot be cured, or because they get stuck into this nylon trap and cannot eat anything else and have no choice but die slowly. Some researchers estimate that by the year of 2050, the total mass of the waste in the oceans will be equal to the total mass of all fish in them. This is a horrifying estimation, and I do not even want to think about it, because even at the moment, the situation is really bad for some of those poor sea creatures out there. What I have seen during my 3 weeks long experience on the field was enough to be disgusted by the level of human egoism. How selfish can humans be, I was asking myself. A short anecdote about this experience I would like to share. We were going to the seaside every day around 5 a.m. in the morning, and we were walking throughout the whole coastal line to check out whether there is any baby karate sea turtle which is trying to find its way out of the nest and towards the water. Sometimes we met the mother on the coast as well, because she couldn't leave due to a plastic bag stuck in her throat. She probably thought it was a yummy jellyfish and died right there. By the way, as much as this might seem to be out of topic, I would like to underline that it wasn't always some plastic waste that caused the death of these poor sea turtles. Sometimes, when they got out of their eggs and tried to get to the sea at night, they think that the sunlight will lead them to the water. Since there is no sunlight in darkness of the night, it's expected that they follow the light coming from the nearest lighthouse. This makes sense, right? But the 5-star hotels on the beach that host several hundred tourists every summer, they try to provide the best of their services for their dear guests, and that includes having so many lamps located too close to the sea. Thus, some of these little sea turtles believe that they should go towards that direction instead of going towards the sea. And we end up burying them into the sand in the morning when we go out for the field work at 5 a.m. No matter how pessimistic I sound, of course, there's always something to do. My pessimism shouldn't let you think like, well, the situation is horrible, we're all gonna die anyways, blah blah. No, this definitely helps no one. But we can help ourselves. I certainly believe that we should start from where we stand and we should look into the mirror and ask what we can change in our lives to live more responsibly. A human being with a clear conscience, I think, is the first step towards a clearer environment and clearer oceans, of course. I would like to make a humble suggestion at this point. I've seen a movie, an animated one, not long ago, thanks to an amazing person. Here I have the chance to thank him one more time. It's called Wall-E. Perhaps some of you or many of you have already seen it. It's not a new one. But I would suggest you to spare some time and revisit this movie. This time keep in mind that our oceans are polluted already at a much higher level than we could imagine. Try to think of what is presented in that movie as not merely fiction, but something that might become to be our reality if we do not start doing something today. I will not go into details of how we can reduce our plastic consumption, but I will suggest you take a closer look at your local community's climate march next Friday, or this Friday, and think about your children's future or even grandchildren's future. If you find yourself saying, I'm getting too old anyways, think about the next generation always. One more thing, if you are in Istanbul or if you plan to visit this beautiful city, I would suggest you to check out the 16th Istanbul Biennial and discover the 7th continent from the lenses of art and artists who exhibit their works made of waste. I myself still didn't have the chance to visit the biennial, so I would appreciate if you leave some comments under this video after your visit. I'm curious to hear about it. Also feel free to share your ideas about what can be done to decrease our plastic consumption. What are you doing to reduce your ecological footprint? I would be glad to hear all of those. And thanks for listening. That's all from me this week. Hope to meet you next week.